Good evening. My name is Naomi Jones, and I'm a sophomore at the University of Alabama. Today I'll be presenting on the potential for AI in systematic literature reviews, a topic I've been studying alongside my main research, employee resource groups under Dr. Theresa Welbourne. I'll begin by defining what a systematic lit review is, as well as its purpose in research, before explaining how to conduct one, and then talking about where AI could step in. I'll touch on potential benefits and limitations before I conclude the presentation. So what is a systematic literature review? A systematic literature review is research that establishes what is already known in a field, and it is systematic and rigorous compared to other methods of research because it follows a protocol to process large volumes of studies to collect what is known. It also highlights gaps in knowledge. Because this can require looking through a large volume of studies, these can be quite time intensive. However, they're critical to research as they direct future research. Systematic literature reviews begin by compiling a team. These are usually 2 or more researchers to ensure the objectivity of the work, and the assistance of a librarian to help with selecting a database and collecting studies. Then a research question is developed to determine the scope and depth of research before a protocol is written and registered to the relevant registry. The evidence is collected by using search booleans, which are search queries that use parentheses, quotations, and keywords to collect as many relevant studies as possible while also minimizing noise. The results are screened according to the predetermined protocol, and the leftover studies are then assessed for their quality and for any bias. Then data is extracted, and then a final review is written that compiles all the data and also highlights gaps. So where could AI step in this process? Already, there are AI tools that can help with the screening process. These are bullet pointed to the left. These help with looking through titles and abstracts and determining whether or not a study is relevant to your research based on the given protocol. Selective Slit Review is a relatively new tool that helps with the synthesis part of systematic literature reviews. Researchers can give Selective Slit Review a pre-screened set of studies and ask it for a draft of the synthesis. Even with those tools, there's still a lot of work left, and quite a lot of it is actually administrative work that doesn't require a PhD to be done. So this would be a more human approach to using AI, or human-driven approaches to using AI, thus the Cyborg and Centaur methods. Cyborg approaches to using AI are highly integrated workflows that looks more like a conversation between human and AI. Centaur approaches, there's a clear divide between human work and AI work. So this can look like a human prompting or delegating a task to a AI model. These could be used to handle administrative tasks such as creating task lists or even project outlines in the beginning of project development, and can help speed up process, again, that isn't quite, doesn't require a PhD or years of experience in the field to do. In my own research, I've used it to help me select which database was most appropriate for my research. I created an original Boolean, and this took me about 20 minutes to figure out what keywords I wanted to use, what filters I wanted to toggle on. And by the time I was done, I had this original Boolean and the goal of the studies that I wanted. However, I had to repeat this process for 4 other databases. However, instead of spending 20 additional minutes for each new database, I was able to use ChatGPT and get this done within minutes, allowing me to focus more on the quality and quantity of the results given to me for each database and better selecting one that was relevant to my study. Humans should ensure that ethical use of AI remains in place. So humans need to make sure that any AI tools don't accidentally plagiarize or commit data or breach data privacy, and researchers need to keep log of all inputs and outputs, especially what AI model they're using, as well as the version. Verify and validate any and all output as you would with any research. And I would actually suggest that humans do the interpretation and reasoning for papers, because as AI is right now, humans are still better at looking at the big picture. And then, of course, researchers need to take accountability and disclose any AI usage and submit the actual paper. So we'll touch on the benefits and limitations. So with AI, if you're using a custom GPT, for example, you are creating a machine essentially that has a specific set of instructions that it runs on. And so this way, you're removing the inherent human bias that can come into the process. If you, again, have a custom GPT that is programmed specifically for your project, you can reproduce your results multiple times. Again, you can use AI to help automate tedious tasks, allowing researchers to focus on more research aspects. And then AI can also help with conceptual connections. If you have a team of researchers, they're usually experts all from the same field. However, AI can help pull ideas from other fields and make connections between fields that were previously unrelated. AI hallucinations are instances where an AI gives a response to a user that is factually incorrect. And so there's still very much a concern with AI hallucinations coming from AI models even today, and this is of course a concern in research. However, there are ways to get around this. There's also time spent that has to go into training not only the AI in order to complete its tasks, but also humans to use AI, as it is a skill that requires time to pick up. And if researchers rely too heavily on AI tools, there's of course a decreased rigor of methodology that can happen. If you get too lenient, the quality of work will naturally decrease. Then of course, as I mentioned before, there's the concern of plagiarism. As AI is trained on information that already exists in the world, it is not creating anything entirely original. So to conclude, AI is an interesting tool and its capabilities are constantly changing. If researchers are considering using it for their field, they really have to consider what the AI would be used for. Large language models, LLMs like ChatGPT, Google's Gemini, Claude, those are all great with text input. However, they are terrible with image analysis and video analysis. So if you're doing research that involves a lot of image analysis or video analysis, these AI models wouldn't help so much with those areas. But however, there are also time constraints. If you need, or researchers are trying to get a paper published quickly and they have a team that is experienced in using AI, this could help shorten time to publication. Again, automating those administrative tasks while allowing researchers to focus on the more qualitative research areas. And then there's also target journals. Journals will disqualify work from being published if there's AI usage. So this varies from journal to journal. So it's important to check, researchers to check what their target journals are and whether or not they allow AI usage. So my own next steps are to finish my systematic literature review on employee resource groups, which are going under a rather tumultuous time due to current administration. But I will clarify what already is known in the field to highlight gaps, and I'll select some gaps to investigate, formulate my own research question, and then hopefully fill them in. Questions?
Can you go back to slide 11, please? Yeah, so you said something there that caught my attention. So I'm asking this in the context of, say, a PhD student going through the initial phase of their research, and it's that fourth bullet, the interpret and reason papers. I think you argued that that's still a valuable thing for the humans to do. So you know, like part of the process in the old days was the process itself, the journey of going through all that and getting exposed to all those things versus just the result. So I'm kind of wondering, what would you see some kind of tendency where the interpret and reasoning, you know, eventually gets also put off the AI, and then do we end up with like researchers who really don't understand their field? That synthesis step is really important to like dot the I's or make all the connections across that. So just say a little bit more about what you think like the future will go for. Are we going to move away even for the synthesis? So all we do is just press a button and it all comes out and there it is.
I think that AI is like any other tool, like with programming languages and calculators. Like before, people would have to manually answer math questions and do all these calculations. However, in terms of synthesizing and all that stuff, AI is really good at data analysis and maybe drawing connections, but humans, I think, still have that bit of human ingenuity that is required for creating true connections or realizing things like gaps in research and really getting those aha moments, or I suppose like breakthroughs, which AI, if it's not programmed to look for them, it won't look for them. So I believe that humans are still very much, should stay in charge of the interpretation and reasoning for papers.
So have you experienced AI hallucinations in your own research process?
Yes, so with AI hallucinations, these generally pop up more when you are asking an open-ended question or asking ChatGPT or any other LLM or AI model to produce something, to generate something. So for my own research, I haven't actually asked it to produce anything original, so to speak, but I have asked it for help in instructional things. And every single time I ask it to cite sources and to show me sort of its thinking. So in this way, I've managed to avoid AI hallucinations.
Yeah, I was wondering what the distinction is between your work and what's currently available to consumers.
So the AI tools that I've mentioned earlier, these are great with helping with some automated steps. However, what I've really looked into the Cyborg and Centaur methods, which are more human-driven approaches to using AI, and these are more skill-based approaches, I would say. So these aren't prepackaged tools that you can subscribe to on the internet. It's a matter of knowing how to use AI, how to do prompt engineering, which is deliberate prompting of AI in order to get desired results, and cross-validating any input you get, and really making the best of AI.
I was just wondering, how much do you think, like, of research overall will be taken over by AI within the next decade?
That is a great question, and it really depends on how far we get with AI's capabilities. As I mentioned before, AI currently is not very great with image analysis and video analysis. It can produce those things just with an enter key, but in terms of analyzing them, they're actually quite bad, especially if you're using large language models. So in terms of text-based research, I think we'll see large advancements in where AI comes in. However, for more image analysis, video analysis, I think it'll still be a long time before that gets taken over by AI.